When we are out of alignment. High school is such a unique and beautiful time to experiment and explore who we are and what we love. That is, unless we only follow what we are told to do. I dabbled in volleyball at my last school and tried out for the team in high school. To my surprise, I made the squad and was yet again the tiniest one on the team. I knew I was never going to be a professional blocker or anything that required serious hops or legitimate height, but I was a great digger and had a keen eye and the communication skills required to be a great leader. Volleyball is all about communication on the floor, and I saw the flow and defense as plays developed. It was like I could see the court from an aerial view, like chess pieces moving about both sides of the court. It was strategic and like an elegant dance. I was truly surprised at how quickly I fell in love with this game. As I progressed in volleyball, I continued to tremendously progress on the soccer field. I was invited to play on a traveling club team, often competing with the most elite teams in Arizona and Southern California. Between barely maintaining my status in yearbook, falling in love with volleyball, and committing to the next level of competitive club soccer, I felt like I was being pulled in every direction. With a decade of soccer experience now under my belt, my coaches and parents regularly told me that I had a real shot of playing in college. I had known since middle school that I was going to be a professional soccer player, which was never in question. I was going to be a Tar Heel at North Carolina, like my idol and pen pal, then go on to play on the U.S. national team. As my club team began hosting college prep training camps, I was told it was time to get serious. All my other hobbies were great and all, but it was time to choose. Yet while playing professional soccer had always been the plan, when the time came to choose, I couldn't help but feel a knot in my stomach. I had always felt at home in the yearbook studio, whether it was cool or not, and I fit in so naturally on the volleyball court. But could either of those things guarantee me a future? I remember being at volleyball practice that following week, with what felt like the worst acid reflux I had ever experienced. I was on the court, deep in stance, in full flow of a drill, and just started dry heaving. My teammates looked at me like I was about to puke on them, but I kept it together long enough to keep playing. Yearbook was easy to resolve. I had a conversation with my yearbook teacher and told her that I needed to hand off all sports photography to other staffers and that I was only able to commit to my editor duties during class and at lunch. I could still do what I needed to do during the school hours for yearbook, but volleyball was a different story. It was midway through the fall season, and I had to make a choice. I had to go with the guarantee. I decided to quit the volleyball team. I regretted it the second I walked out of the gymnasium. Certain that I had a future in soccer, I dove in 110%. I was not even a senior in high school, and I was already preparing resumes and letters of recommendations for the schools I wanted to attend. For competitive sports, we had to have these things prepared in advance because we were playing in showcase tournaments and scouts could inquire at any moment. I harnessed my writing and editorial skills into an impressive scout package. My coaches were impressed and assured me there would be multiple offers on the table. The showcase tournaments out of town were always steep competition. Our team was never the best, but we had many moments of brilliance and many players that were at the caliber to catch the eyes of the scouts. I knew I had to be on at all times. At one game in particular, I was playing left wing and was met with another winger who was significantly bigger, stronger, faster, and taller than me. But I was there to rally, so I was not rattled. I dove deep and was able to keep up as we sparred up and down the wing together. While she was strong on offense, my time in volleyball allowed me to be low and fierce on defense. While she was fast on defense, I was strong in my footwork. I had this signature move where I would have the ball on the left wing, juke left, pass the ball past my defender on the right, and then sprint past them on the opposite side, leaving them confused on which way to turn. After leaving her in the dust a couple of times in the first half, she caught on to my moves. She started laying her body into me deeper and deeper, making my footwork harder and harder to break. During one play, I looked up and saw my defender beginning to cut up the middle to support me. I laid off a pass for her to take off and peel around my opponent. She must have thought I was pulling the signature move on her again and lunged sideways to catch me as I passed. I was just perfectly square on her left as she lunged her body directly into me. As we made contact, both of my feet left the ground and she sent me sailing past the sideline. I landed on a parent sitting in their chair. I felt the cracks throughout my body, and for the slightest moment, everything around me was silent. My life flashed before my eyes, and I knew my future was at stake depending on what I did next. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and got out of the chair and back into the game. The rest of the tournament and the weeks that followed was a blur as I found myself in and out of doctors' offices, chiropractors, and orthopedic specialists. No one could seem to find anything wrong with me, but I knew there was something very wrong. Since no one could tell me anything was definitely wrong with my back, I kept playing. My future was at stake, for God's sake. Luckily, my parents believed me when I told them there was something wrong with my back, so my new after-school activities consisted of traction and adjustments before high school soccer practice, dinner, then club practice. I was in full-blown soccer domination and complete and utter hell at the same time. It was so incredibly painful to play, but I somehow managed to forget that anything was going on inside of my body the moment I was on the pitch. Mind over matter, right? There was something meditative for me about being under those buzzing lights on the rock-hard Arizona ground and amongst the faint laughter of my teammates. I often felt checked out to everyone and everything around me, but my body knew exactly what to do as soon as it was go time. I had been training for years. After playing left wing most of my competitive career, I got moved to center back during my junior year. This was an unusual move for the smallest girl on the team to be the sweeper and the final line of defense before the goalie, but I rolled with it. I instantly fell back into a familiar trance, similar to when I was on the volleyball court. I could view all the moving pieces of the chessboard from above, except my chessboard was a soccer pitch, and my pieces were girls buzzing around the field. Somehow I could see the moves being played out just before they happened in real time, and this made me perfect for the center back position. I could anticipate the plays coming my way and intercept them in action. I no longer needed to be the biggest, strongest, or fastest player on the field. It was as if I got quicker, smarter, and more aggressive overnight. Always dominating with my footwork on offense, I also somehow became more confident about getting physical. If I couldn't catch you, I could perfectly time a slide tackle and stop you in your tracks. I even got my first few yellow cards that year for aggressive play. In fact, after the game where I got my very first yellow card, my mom convinced the referee to sign and date the card and let her keep it. It was humiliating and hilarious, but it was like a secret badge of honor. Something was unleashed in me that year, and I was a completely different player. I had no fear, I took no shit, and I even developed the audacity to start shit-talking to the refs if they were not in my favor. This fire was pouring out of me, and it usually translated into really great skill. On this one particular day, I recall my back hurting more than normal. This annoying little shit that I was playing against was just so much faster than me. I couldn't keep up with her and landed a slide tackle a bit too aggressively into her. The ref hit me with a yellow card and rage just poured out of my body towards him. It didn't take all but a moment for that yellow card to turn into a red card, landing my happy ass on the bench for the rest of the game. Meanwhile, my back was killing me, and being on the sidelines royally sucked, so I could feel everything. In hindsight, I could have been grateful that I started and played all game every game, because that pain coursing through my body was brutal, but the fire inside of me was burning far too high for gratitude. About halfway through my junior year, on my umpteenth visit to a specialist, someone finally found the break in my back. No one had seen it before because they were all looking on the surface of my spine. And since it wasn't a clean break, it wasn't until someone looked on the underside of the bones that they found the cracks. I had fractured the underside of my L4 and L5 vertebrae. And just like that, I was no longer allowed to play. Don't get me wrong, my schedule didn't suddenly clear up with this news. I was still the captain of both the high school and the club teams, which meant I was still on the pitch leading my teams. I just had to do it from the sidelines while standing next to my coaches. As for the afternoon chiropractic appointments, those were now replaced with more intensive specialists and all sorts of alternative medicines. While surgery was always on the table, I had a firm go fuck yourself attitude about that option. Instead, I opted for the more homeopathic option, even though I didn't for 1 second believe that it would work. I showed up for acupuncture and whatnot and thought it was a load of crap, so I never gave any of it the proper chance to heal me. Soon, I was given a full torso back brace to wear and a cocktail of herbal supplements and painkillers to take. The back brace was like a corset that started just below my breasts and had metal rods down past my hips. Getting in and out of my car was a chore, in which I less than gracefully fell in and out of the seat because I could not twist or bend in my midsection. As the specialist added to the cocktail of supplements and painkillers, nothing seemed to work. The pain I felt after the pills wore off was the same amount of pain I felt before and after I took the pills. Nothing worked. So the doctors began moving me from the more holistic options to the gamut of pharmaceutical pain medications. It took all of about 5 minutes to see that the entry-level prescriptions were not going to do the trick. That's when the doctors moved me up the scale. I remember the moment, clear as day, when I had my first hydrocodone. I was laying across one of the chairs in my living room, feet dangling off the side as I popped the first pill. My body got warm, the world got a bit quieter, and my feet no longer wanted to sway. My body relaxed for the first time in eternity as I drifted off to sleep. None of the 29 other pills in that bottle ever felt the same again. Convincing everyone that it still wasn't doing the trick, the doctor moved me even further up the scale, and I was told that my last option would be oxycodone. I graciously accepted and went on my way. The fire inside of me grew with each passing day until one day the most tragic news hit the field. One of our beloved boys' soccer players had died unexpectedly of meningitis that morning. We had all just watched him score the winning goal to bring home the boys' state championship 2 weeks prior. Our community and our teams were devastated. Ryan was a stunning, effervescent ray of sunshine, and losing him radiated through every hallway. Even surrounding schools felt the loss and sent their condolences to our teams. Amid our immediate grief-stricken sorrows, both the boys' and girls' soccer teams were rushed to the local park where one of the fathers was handing out prescriptions for all of us to immediately get the meningitis vaccine. We had all been with Ryan in his final days and were swiftly educated on how this infection spread commonly among athletes and young adults. I'll never forget the sound of his girlfriend's wails as she lay in the middle of the grass, the rest of us lined up and waiting for our prescription orders. We were all shaken to our core, and as one does when grieving a loss in high school, we solemnly planned to have a kegger in his honor. That was one of the first times that I mixed alcohol with my new pain medications and experienced the comfort that immediately took place within my body. It was a fix I would chase down for the next decade. I had finally found something that worked. The only time I was not physically in pain or crawling in my skin was when I had just the right amount of alcohol in my system. I had to keep adding more to make sure it wouldn't wear off. Being underage, no doctor was going to give me this secret, but I had found the solution to my problems, and it was in the bottle.